Well, let's kick off with Old Mutual, which was founded in 1845 in Cape Town and is a global long-term savings protection and investment group with a market cap of 93 billion rand and assets under management of around 280 billion pounds. Now that is in sterling. The group operates through brands like Old Mutual, Fairburn, Nedbank and Mutual Federal. It has a price to earnings ratio of 16.5 and a dividend yield of 3%. And of course, Old Mutual has done a remarkable recovery, and we're now seeing capital being deployed in the right areas rather than the misallocation of capital that we saw in Jim Sutcliffe's time.
Well, let's go back history-wise, because as you said, they're established as a mutual, so they're sort of owned by its policyholders, built up mostly in the long-term savings and in the life insurance space, but as you then point out, moved into a whole lot of other things, industrial holdings, focused on the banking sector in Nedbank, and then Mutual and Federal, and then its life business, you know, the big sort of old grey lady of Pinelands. Then it decides under Mike Levette, with the opening up of South Africa to go global, does the London thing, buys Scandia, buys
huge
US
head
assets.
office in London, lots of money being thrown around.
Failure, though, disastrous failure. So in the financial crisis, almost went bust. You know, they don't like to talk about it, but fell to 4 rand a share from its sort of listed price of 2.50, which is where it came on the market. So where you find it now is, as you say, busy reorganizing its portfolio. And
it seems to be doing relatively well at that, doesn't it, Gerbrand?
Yeah, look, on almost the bust days, they were trading at around 4 rand a share about 3-4 years back. They're back to about 20 rand a share. The negative part, though, is they demutualized in 1999, and they closed back to about the same price of what they were.
So they've made absolutely no money for shareholders.
No, that's one of the problems. And then, of course, I think there's some value maybe in the stock at the moment. If you look at some of its peers, the right way of looking at it is embedded value, etc., on these guys' balance sheets going forward, but certainly not as discounted as it was 3-4 years back.
Patrice Moyal from Marzi Visio saying target price on Old Mutual of 25 rand.
He's probably long, so he wants it to get to 25. That's nice.
He didn't pay me to say that tonight.
But look, I mean, a lot of their businesses are apparently for sale. So the US asset management business, they've indicated they would like to do some kind of an IPO in New York. That's a bunch of like family offices and no-name brand asset managers over there that somebody put together and then Old Mutual bought. The old US life business, where they lost most of the money, is in fact the old Sage business that Louis Schill built up. Then they sold Scandia, so they're trying to sell Nedbank. You know, they tried to sell it to HSBC a year or two ago, then that didn't work, so now it's back on the list of core assets. So
absolutely, from about to be disposed of into core assets.
It appears what they want to be is an asset manager, and they want to link that to long-term savings and to the insurance industry, and that kind of makes sense. They've got real scale and presence in this market because they've been around since 1845, you know, writing policies. So Julian Roberts, who's the CEO, who's based in London, who is an Englishman, has really tasked himself with reorganizing the balance sheet. So at 20 rand a share, I mean, maybe there is value unlocked there, but we know that the sort of process of doing that is perhaps not exactly just straightforward. I mean, there could be some mistakes.
Looking at Old Mutual and specifically in the asset management space, now you've got these boutique operations within the Old Mutual stable, and that seems as though it's their investment philosophy going forward, where you have the boutique managers and they're all incentivized on performance, etc., etc., almost mini owners of their own business.
Look, I think that is something that happened a while back, because good fund managers tend to move away from the big fund managers spaces a while back, about 10 years back, and they started their own little boutique shops, and these guys got shares in the boutique shops and they still manage some of their assets, etc. Some of the names that come to like is Symmetry, Polaris, some of those oaks in the country. It's a difficult space, asset management, especially to sell a global brand name like Old Mutual, a philosophy to all your funds out there. So I think the boutique thing makes sense from a point of view where you can sell a specific strategy and a specific philosophy through some of your funds.
Even future growth. Even future growth falls under Old Mutual.
I think that makes sense as well, because they specialize in some kind of area.
In the fixed interest
and that's
space.
What you can sell. So I think that's a brilliant strategy from them a while back. But are the guys going to incorporate the guys back? I don't know.
Look, it's an interesting one, because what you're alluding to is if you do well in the asset management arena, by sheer fortune. Good luck. You know, you pick the one that's going up and you're out of the one going down. Then what you do is you go and start a hedge fund, because then you can charge 2% of assets and 20% of performance and make more money than you can shake a stick at. So that's what happens with people who do well in that environment, and to some extent that's what also happens with companies that do that. The likes of our Old Mutual, I think, learned a long time ago that if you want to gather as many assets as you can, you've got to basically hug the index. So that's what the game is that they play. In the institutional asset management arena where the big money is, you don't want to be the top performer, because what it means is that next quarter you're going to be the worst performer. So you kind of bumble along and try and gather as much money as you can. But they are past masters at doing this kind of thing.
Are they doing it well? Are they doing it well?
Well, they've got a sales force that's out there trawling for business for them.
You mean a good distribution model?
Yeah, that's mostly what it's all about. You know, well-paid brokers that get you the business.
Do you think that at current levels, Old Mutual you did say earlier that you thought maybe it had a little bit more in it?
Yeah, we looked at about 24 and a share is our target on embedded values, etc.
You're also long Old Mutual, are you?
No, not really. We've got a little bit of exposure still left in one of our equity funds. On the other 3 funds, we don't have any exposure left. We had some. We thought we were valued at 4 rand. We actually got in about 6 rand, but we sold over the last 6 to 12 months some of our shareholding there in 3 of the 4 funds already. We just think in any other where risk is important as well, I don't think this is the pick to be in going forward.
And considering this is the show, no holes barred management, Julian Roberts is doing the right things. We said just a moment ago. You think he's the right man for the job? He's going to stay there?
Look, opinions about him tend to differ depending on how the share price is going. Recently, they did a thing where they paid a special dividend and then they simultaneously reduced the number of shares in issue in a ratio of like 8 to 7. And the market got totally confused and annoyed and irritated by it, because as the extra shares sort of disappeared, the price stayed the same, but you got the cash. People were kind of thinking, what happened? You know, one day I had 8 shares and I've only got 7. So that kind of thing is all an investor relations management challenge. I don't know that he is necessarily the big visionary that's going to drive the business to greater and greater heights, but he certainly seems, as an accountant, to be going around chopping bits off fairly efficiently.
Hot or not on Old Mutual?
I go not, but there is some value. I think there's more value in this in some of the other life insurers out there.
All right, so not hot from your perspective, Paul Theron, hot or not on Old Mutual?
I'm afraid not for me either.